What is up, YouTube? My name is Happiness and welcome to my channel. So, appointed federal judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. ruled President Trump cannot use the Alien Enemy Act to remove certain illegals. He says that Trump violates the law by invoking it in the context to which he did. This is madness.
Just this month, 2 Venezuelan members of TDA, Nicaragua, were arrested in Washington state for kidnapping a 58-year-old woman, driving a power drill through her hand to extort her bank account information, shooting her, leaving her for dead. And miraculously, she just survived, but she's not feeling so well. In January, Nicaragua member in Chicago kidnapped 3 women, took them in an alley, lined them up, and shot them each in the head. They all died. And the FBI recently assessed that these vicious gangs have been sent by the foreign regime in Venezuela to foment violence and instability in the United States of America. Can't let that happen. And it's not just, in all fairness, not Venezuela. It's all over the world. It's all over. They come in from the Congo. They come in from Africa. The Congo, they emptied out their prisons into our country. But they come from Africa, Asia, South America. They come from all over bad parts of Europe. That's why we've invoked the Alien Enemies Act to expel every foreign terrorist from our soil as quickly as possible.
Every time you hear them say the word invasion on camera, they are reinforcing the Aliens Enemies Act for them to justify what they're going to do. And this clip I'm about to show you is them setting up the framework to justify persecution of Kamala Harris or the Biden administration. Listen to the choice of wording that they are using.
The only thing Americans want to hear from Kamala Harris is an apology for joining Joe Biden. Remember, she was the border czar. Joining Joe Biden in aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. And we're never going to stop talking about this because what they did to this country is unforgivable. It is an eternal stain on the Democrat Party. The only thing that gets them exercised is, do we need to have more trials for terrorist supporters? Do we need to have more trials for gangbangers? Do we need to have more trials for illegal alien invaders? Even though Congress and the Constitution clearly say that you can expel invaders and illegal aliens quickly, efficiently, and properly. This president has literally saved America, and I could not be prouder. I could not be prouder, as I know Caroline feels the same way, to come every single day to this building where we have a leader sitting in office whose first, last, and every thought is the safety, prosperity, security, and sovereignty of the citizens. That's an important word, people. Citizens of this republic. Thank you all.
Thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone. And just to add on the Kamala Harris point, I think I speak for everyone at the White House. We encourage Kamala Harris to continue going out and do speaking engagements. You'll hear from the president at 11 o'clock. See you guys later.
So you heard that, right? You heard him say citizens. So now it's not people in America who have rights as long as they're on American soil. It is citizens. They're trying to cut down every sentence that they say. They are trying to cut down who has rights in this country. We're not going to have food in 2 weeks. We're not going to have supplies in 2 weeks. We're not going to have in less than 2 weeks because people are going to panic buy. Are you getting ready, America? What the And no, I don't have a call to action for this because I don't know what to say. I don't want to incite any violence because I don't think we're going to win against a government who can push a keystroke and annihilate an entire city block. But what are we doing right now? Are we going to work tomorrow on Friday? Asking for a friend at this point.
So can a 200-year-old wartime law be used to deport migrants? Everyone is asking this question, including me. And a judge said today, no way. A federal judge in Texas just blocked the Trump administration from using the Alien Enemies Act, a law form 1798, to detain and deport Venezuelan migrants. That law was meant for wartime enemies, not asylum seekers. Judge Fernando Rodriguez, a Trump appointee, ruled that the historic law doesn't give the president power to bypass immigration procedures. Trump had tried to use it through proclamation back in March to fast-track removals, but this ruling is a major legal roadblock, a huge setback in the Trump administration crackdown, and it shows that even president can't stretch all laws too far They just can't. You just can't. Comment and let me know your thoughts on this, and follow for more. Like and share.
Like the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to justify these actions is a blatant abuse of power. We must ask ourselves, if the rights of non-citizens can be so easily disregarded, whose rights will be next? Our Constitution guarantees due process and equal protection under the law to everyone in this country, not just citizens. If the government can silence you, detain you,
Yo, good afternoon, beautiful people. Oh, I'm looking a hot mess over in here. This weather, though, man, in Denver is back down to like the 60s and it's raining, so I had to throw the beanie back on, and it's cold as hell in my office. But anyway, y'all, listen to this. This just popped up on my news feed. It's an article by Travis Geddes. This was put in 2 minutes, 1 hour ago. It says Donald Trump gets slapped down by a judge he hired. A Donald Trump appointee ruled that his administration's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport alleged gang members was unlawful. Finally, a judge is saying the quiet part out loud. We're not even in a war. There's not even a war happening between the United States and anyone else. So make this is what you are trying to hem people up on. But I digress. Back to this article. U.S. District Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. of the Southern District of Texas issued a ruling Thursday finding that the executive branch has the authority to direct the detention and removal of immigrants who engage in criminal activity, but he said the administration must rely on the Immigration and National Act for these proceedings, not that made up as Aliens Act. The historical record renders clear that the president's invocation of the Aliens Enemy Act through the proclamation exceeds the scope of the statute and is contrary to the plain, ordinary meaning of the status terms, Rodriguez wrote. The Trump appointee found that the administration's use of invasion does not match the historical use of the term, which he said has been reserved to describe an organized armed force entering the United States to engage in conduct destructive of property and human life in a specific geographical area. Rodriguez issued a permanent injunction prohibiting the use of the Alien Enemies Act to deport, transport, or remove the plaintiffs or other Venezuelan aliens in the Southern District of Texas. Let me stand up and applaud this judge. This is the first judge that has stood 10 toes down and said that Alien Enemies Act is bull. No one's over here invading this place, coming in with guns and 50 million people behind them attacking the United States. You cannot haul an individual out because with this trying to pull. It's unlawful. And if the Supreme Court doesn't back this man, then we have a huge ass problem in America. But again, big up to this judge. Judge Rodriguez, you, sir, are the first one that I take my hat off to in this court system. The other judges, don't get me wrong, they're doing their job, but they've been skirting around the language. They've been using different words and terms and who bought it to the 10 toes down and saying, no, this is not what the Aliens Enemies Act is supposed to do, and we're going to stop it right here. Yeah, baby, I told y'all, this to crumble, and this Alien Enemies Act is going to be the them down. Later, y'all.
Trump has to follow normal appellate procedure, but the Supreme Court doesn't. And they hijack the presidency effectively in stopping the president from enforcing his lawful declaration or proclamation under Alien Enemies Act that these Venezuelan terrorist gang members can be deported immediately because they're working in league with a foreign government. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. And President Trump was saying, I mean, they literally, this is what the left wants them to do. And frankly, a lot of the courts, you can invade the country by the millions, but But if you deport anyone, it has to be one at a time after a full trial. Our enemies now have a path on how to destroy the country. Invade and then rely on the courts to prevent a reversal of the invasion. That's literally what's happening now.
At the risk of getting a little canceled by my fellow Democrats or something like that, I'm just going to say it because I believe it to be true. We have to tell these liberal-leaning, Democrat-appointed judges to pump the brakes on these rulings a little bit. We can't keep giving the right ammunition to say that they're activist judges. This latest one in Texas just said that the Trump administration cannot use the Alien Enemies Act. Like, we gotta pump the brakes, judges. No, I'm just kidding. That was a Trump-appointed judge. He said that the president's use of Alien Enemies Act is unlawful in first-of-its-kind ruling. Now, this is not the first time a court has issued a ruling on the Trump administration's use of the Alien Enemies Act, but Rodriguez's ruling is the first to conclude that the president exceeded his authority by relying on a law that was intended to be used during times when the U.S. is at war. And also, Rodriguez is the first judge to have reached a final decision on the merits of the use of the Alien Enemies Act. Rodriguez writes, allowing the president to unilaterally define the conditions when he may invoke the AEA and then summarily declare that those conditions exist would remove all limitations to the executive branch's authority under the AEA and would strip the courts of their traditional role of interpreting congressional statutes to determine whether a government official has exceeded the statute's scope. The law does not support such a position. Ah, those darn liberal activist judges that Trump appointed. They keep saying the president broke the law every time the president breaks the law. What a bunch of jerks.
Trump gets slapped down by one of his own appointed judges today. Listen to this. You're going to love it. Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. ruled that it was unlawful for Donald Trump and his administration to use the Aliens Enemies Act of 1798 to deport people swiftly. You cannot do it. That is not what the law was intended for, and it is unlawful, and it violates the law, according to this judge who was appointed by Donald Trump. This is a Republican judge appointed by Donald Trump. More, Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr. rules that this act can only be used when the United States is facing armed, organized attack. And his use of it to go after the Venezuelans or even potentially Venezuelan gangs does not fall under that category. We are not at war. Therefore, according to Judge Fernando Rodriguez Jr., who was appointed by Donald Trump, says you cannot use this act to do this. They're using it unlawfully and they must stop. Love it. Donald Trump gets called out again by one of his own judges. What do you think about that? Loved it for my Democrats, my MAGAs, my crazies, my cuckoos, and my burned out light bulbs. What do you all think? Again, they bend the law every way they can. Make America great again. Law-abiding citizens. Right. I know one felon that should be deported. I bet you all know the same one.
Breaking news that are good. How about that? A federal judge in the Southern District, Texas, who was appointed by Trump, ordered him to stop using the Alien Enemies Act, which is the old wartime act under which he has been deporting people without due process. And this was the most expansive ruling yet against his usage of the Alien Enemies Act, and it is very good news. So yay for that.
Thank you for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe, and let's meet up to the next one. Peace out.